every day, after all these years, 1997 was my conversion, I still, every single day, I find something that's incredible about Judaism. Isn't that crazy? And I don't think it's ever going to end.
Welcome to Talk Jewish to Me, brought to you by Aish, which is the show that discusses important issues like Jewish identity, spiritual growth, raising a family, and more. We are your hosts, LaDerryl and Danielle Harts, and we're so excited to have you here. So in this episode, we talk with Reyna Simnegar, and we're talking about her family history, which dates back all the way to the Spanish Inquisition. We're talking about family life and her 5 kids and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and a whole lot more.
Whether you're a returning listener or a first-time listener, we want to thank you for joining us. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe and like this video on YouTube or your favorite podcasting platform. And let us know what you think about the episode in the comments.
Reyna Simnegar was born and raised in Venezuela. Her family history dates back to the Spanish Inquisition, when her family fled from Spain and ultimately arrived in Venezuela. Reyna moved to the United States in 1995 to pursue higher education, getting her bachelor's degree in international management and economics from the University of Massachusetts with honors. She is very happily married and lives with her wonderful husband and vivacious 5 boys in Boston, Massachusetts.
So without further ado, Reyna Simnegar.
Hi, guys.
Hello. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here with you.
We are so excited to have you here. We have so many things to talk about. You have such an amazing story. And there's a few things that I think LaDerryl and we can connect with as well within your story. So we're just excited about this. So thank you for coming on and just sharing your story with us.
My pleasure.
It's gonna be fun. So you're in Boston right now, right?
Yeah.
What's the weather like over there?
Yeah,
it's actually gorgeous right now. It is hard to believe. Everybody's out here. When it gets just a little warmer, people just go crazy, tank tops, flip-flops, and you're like, it's 43 degrees, but it's not 43 right now. But like, to me, like convertible weather here is 43 degrees.
wow.
But right now it's like really, really nice, like almost 80.
Oh,
Whoa.
you guys are hotter than us over here in
Really?
Southern California.
Wow.
We're not even.
We have we're like 68 or something like that. But that feels good for us, because once it gets really, really hot, then it's like a little bit really too much for us.
Yeah.
We
like 70s.
So your wife, mom of 5 boys, right? Like, wow.
Mm-hmm.
Right, five boys, and we also found out that you're a jiu-jitsu blue belt.
Yes.
Is that why you wore blue today?
Yeah, that's representing my jiu-jitsu background.
I love it. So I mean that means that you were obviously prepared, to have those 5 boys then, right?
Yes, actually, it all started because one of my kids started jiu-jitsu, and I saw it and I was like, this is so amazing. It looks like a mess. When you go to jiu-jitsu, it's like a disaster. People like rolling on the ground, going crazy. And then when you're doing jiu-jitsu, you realize it's just like a puzzle. It's like a mental puzzle, and you have to it's like incredible. And it is just so good for your mind and for you, not so much for your body because you get injured a lot, but for your mind is amazing.
Yeah, and we hear that. We actually put our son in jiu-jitsu for like a year, or I don't even think it was quite a year. But it's so fascinating just to watch. Like you said, I can totally see where you're coming from, where it's like the mind, right? At first you're like, what are they doing?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But
it
then
looks really weird.
but then you're like, okay, there's actually something to this, and especially the mental side of it. And so you said you started it because of your firstborn.
No, it was my 3rd child. My firstborn was not into jiu-jitsu. It was my 3rd child, Joseph, that decided he wants to do jiu-jitsu. And I was like, sure, no problem, I'll take you. And I'm like, what are you guys doing? It looks like you're just like playing in the ground and trying to kill each other. And then I took a class and I was like, wow, this is amazing. This is so interesting. And it is also about a person who doesn't have the physical, like hugeness of like a really strong person. being
Yeah.
able to defend themselves. And I found that fascinating as a woman. I was like, oh, I would love to be able to defend myself without without so much effort.
Ah,
So do you still train like from this very day?
So no, I stopped training after COVID, and unfortunately did not go back. So if you were to put me on the mat right now, it would probably be a minus white belt.
oh,
It's so sad.
the
It's
negative
so
white
sad.
belt.
Yes. Yeah, but it's okay. It comes back quickly if you try. But
I got you.
I would have to change a lot of things. I have to cut my nails really short. I have to go mentally prepare to literally fight, because every time there's a class, there is a fight.
Yeah.
So, but I do miss the release of adrenaline when
Nice.
I was like anger management release in jiu-jitsu. I miss
I
that.
I hear you.
We can see that.
I hear you. So published cookbook author.
Amazing.
Okay, we gotta talk about this. So if we can maybe help us understand, what is this about? What is this cooking life, this cookbook and all that stuff. So share that with us, and then we're really gonna kind of get into some other stuff as well.
So it all started because in Boston, you don't have a lot of Persians. And I basically, well, actually, let's rewind. It started because my husband is Persian. And the first
Wow.
time I met his family, his mom served me, beautiful Persian food. And I was just like, that's it. This is amazing. So I moved from Los Angeles to New York to go to school in New York. And I said to her, would you teach me how to make Persian food so that I can make it for your son?
Ah.
For me.
There
So
you go.
she's like, sure, no problem. Of course, it was an investment on her part, because I don't know if you know this, but there is an underground FedEx operation going on with frozen Persian food that LA mothers send to their children to New York. Like, I'm not
Ah.
joking. It is like they freeze, they make it, they freeze it, and they send it. So I was like, you don't
Wow.
have to do that. If you have me in New York, I'll take care of that.
Ah.
So I'll make it for myself, and he can have the leftover. So I started cooking Persian food, and then all my friends were asking for recipes. So I slowly started putting together a little cookbook, if you could say, for my friends. Not very well edited or anything, just like snap a few pictures. And then I realized, oh my gosh, I have like a little cookbook I could literally bound and then give to as presents for, like, weddings, bridal showers, whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
And then that's how it was born, because it turned out to be, I have friends in the advertisement industry, and one of them is a photographer, another one is an incredible artist. So they put together this book for me. And I was, believe it or not, in Morocco in a bus full of Jews that were going to Kevarim, to cemeteries in Morocco.
Yeah.
And behind me, there was a girl. I was working on the PDF, and she was like, what are you doing? It looks very pretty. I'm like, oh, it's a cookbook,
Yeah, yeah.
a tiny cookbook. She's like, oh my gosh, you should publish it. And I was like, you can't publish. It's like impossible to find a publisher. She's like,
Yeah.
no, not if you know Feldheim. And I know Feldheim. So I was like, oh, okay.
What?
So then, like,
Wow.
it was published, and that's how it happened. But it went from like 15 pages to 300 something pages, because
Oh, wow.
once you go to an actual publisher, then they just really then you have a deadline, then you have like,
Oh,
so that's how it
Wow.
happened.
Wow,
excuse me.
that's amazing. So,
Okay.
were you into cooking before meeting your husband, or did that just come about because she mentioned all of those things and you were like, "Okay, well, I could just do
Right.
this."
I was mostly into eating
Okay.
when I met him. Mostly into eating. And
Yeah.
then I got, I was very young. I met him when I was 18. I do like cooking. I remember my first paella was when I was 10 years old. I remember making cookies, lots of cakes, but like a lot of teenagers like to cook. I don't
Yeah.
think there was anything in particular that it made me any quite different. I never went to the culinary school or anything like that.
That's
I think I
amazing.
just no, I just think I just wanted to do something special like that, and I just did it.
And so, do you ever have, I mean, because you're from Venezuela, do you ever like kind of infuse the Persian into some of the Venezuelan, type of culture food too, or is it just all Persian?
No, chas v'shalom, no, God forbid, like, no way. No, I'm kidding. Because Persians, you don't understand. There's like a lot of like, I'm threading a very like dangerous situations together,
Ah,
because Persians are very protective of their food. It is
Got it.
quite
okay.
it is quite beautiful, and it's truly just artistic, not just to, not just because of your palate and the flavors and the experience that is truly to just like saffron and like all the amazing, rose water, wow, so exotic, but also because of the beauty of it. Like it's just so beautiful. So doing a merger between Persian food and Venezuelan food would be like, I don't even know, like merging two really strange plants and coming with like,
Wow.
that's probably what, like, those plants that eat insects come from like
Yeah.
a really strange merger. But I am working on a Venezuelan cookbook, which I have been working on for 1,000 years. But it is getting
Wow.
there. It's getting there. It's getting there.
So is it just only the one cookbook that you have published now?
Yes,
Okay.
and I am waiting to publish a memoir that is basically on the story of how I became a Jew. That's a special thing for me.
Yeah, absolutely, and we're definitely gonna get into some of that. I can, you being a cook, I know us coming into this Jewish life because we're in the process of conversion, and so
So exciting.
we're learning a lot. Thank you.
Thank you.
And so I know one thing she always talks about is like, especially Shabbat, it just revolves around cooking, right? Or being a Jewish family, just everything is about cooking. So
Everything.
I'm sure it's just
Yeah.
like this love in your home of just food, and it just probably smells incredible and all that stuff.
It's yeah, you're totally right. It really truly is around cooking. But first of all, I just want to tell you how much I feel you in my heart, and it's not in like, because I know you're not, your name's the Hearts, but it truly, like, I feel everything that you're going through right now, because I went through the same journey, and I have a few cousins who are going through the same journey as you are
Wow.
going through right now, and it's just so beautiful, so bittersweet, difficult, to like a different level, trying, and like it's like a roller coaster of emotions. So I am with you right there. uh,
Thank you.
I just wish you all the best.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so
That
much.
means so much. And that's why we were, very excited about doing this interview with you, because you've been there. You know what that feels like.
Yeah,
And we hear, stories all the time of people who are going through a conversion process. But one thing they always remind us, like we have people who are like, yeah, I converted 30 years ago. And they always say, you only go through that one time, but you look back and it's like you went through it. And then you're so proud of what you actually went through and who you are now and what you have and the culture that you're a part of. And it's so
yeah,
beautiful. And that's what we're excited about. And we always we stay positive, through the process. And
yeah,
just know it's all in Hashem's timing. It's all in God's timing. And
yeah, for
we
sure.
just
And
trust it.
you're like, you have each other, which is so nice that you have each other through this journey. It's like so nice to be holding someone's hand, because it can get a little lonely sometimes
Yeah.
as a convert,
I agree.
but yeah, you're right. Like my conversion was almost 30 years ago, and
Wow.
I have to tell you, the best, most important decision I have made in my life was to become a Jew, for sure.
Mm.
Mm.
I always talk about it, and it was the most beautiful experience, excruciating pain and excruciating happiness. So I don't even know. It's like difficult and incredibly rewarding. So it's one of those things. It's like giving birth.
Wow. Right. So if you can maybe explain a little bit for our listeners, you say it was the best decision you've ever made. Why is that? That's a big, gigantic statement.
Hmm.
You know.
Yeah,
So
that's
so
true.
maybe if you can share a little bit, like where's that coming from?
I wonder if this kind of speaks to you, because I feel like a lot of converts, we have like kind of like the same, almost like a calling. And I really do think it's Hashem, is God, like trying to gather his souls.
Hmm.
Hmm.
I had this like, and again, it's gonna sound like I'm schizophrenic, but I am not. I had this voice inside of me, and that kept on saying, the things are just, you can't just keep living life just like that. Like there
Hmm.
is so much more. That there is like there's a treasure. There is something that you just have to go back to. You have to regain it. And it started when I was around 12, that I found out that I was my father's side of the family was Jewish, from
Yeah.
like the time of the Inquisition. And ever since
Hmm.
I found that out, even before then, and I went to Catholic school my whole life, I was fascinated with Judaism in a very strange way
Hmm.
that a child shouldn't be, especially a child that was born in Venezuela, in a country where
Yeah.
there were just really not many Jews at all.
Yeah.
I don't even think I had ever met a Jew in real life, but I just had this calling. And then by the time I turned 16, I just couldn't, that's why my memoir is called The Little Voice, because I just couldn't look, like, I just couldn't stop listening to this little voice that was like, there's so much more. There's so much more. You don't even know how much more there is.
Mm.
And every time, every day, after all these years, 1997 was my conversion. I still, every single day, I find something that's incredible about Judaism. Isn't that
Mm.
crazy? And I don't think
Wow.
it's ever going to end. I
Ah,
don't know that it's ever going to end. It is so exciting to just wake up in the morning and then find a new reason why I say Mode Ani, what the prayer
Mm.
to when I wake. There is a new reason, like, for something, and I'm like, wow, I didn't know that. That's so cool. And even I'm going to seminary in July, because I never went to seminary. I know, I
wow.
never
Beautiful.
went to seminary, and I am so excited. It's only for 2 weeks. I'm going to Sharim. I'm very excited about that,
Mm.
Okay.
and I can't wait to tell you guys what I'm going to learn, because I know it's
Ah,
stuff that I never learned before,
Wow.
and I wish that you come with me.
No,
oh my God.
that's amazing. You know, even you saying that, like looking at, years later after your conversion and saying, I want to go to seminary. It's something that's actually on my heart years. I mean, because I have kids too, right? We're going on number 6 coming soon.
Ooh,
And
besármelo.
and so I thought of that. I was like, oh my gosh, maybe when my kids, they get a little bit older and I have that time. And even hearing you say, I'm just, I'm going for 2 weeks. I'm like, I can do that. That's where me and LaDerryl's heart is even just now. And I know we're still fresh. We're going through the process. We're not converting yet, but there's always something that I feel you can
Yeah,
find
sure.
every day that's beautiful about Judaism.
Yeah, that's so true. And then you just find, like, people, like little gems that God sends you, that you're like, from this person I'm going to learn patience. And from this person
Yeah.
I'm going to learn how to be a good wife. And from this person I'm going to learn how to be a good mother. And then you just like, wow. And then
Hmm.
you just realize all these people come together, and then the community. Oh, that's the best part. Isn't that
Yes.
the best part of being Jewish? Like, the
Yes.
community. It's
Absolutely.
like, oh, the best. It's like the biggest hug that anyone can give you is a Jewish community.
Mm.
I'm so grateful for my community, and for communities that almost like those communities that you just like happen to find, like Chabad, like everywhere, like they're in the
Hmm.
moon, they're in the cyberspace, in like everywhere.
They are.
They are.
I'm like, thank God for Chabad. Like, it's
Yeah.
amazing. We're very, very, very lucky to be Jewish. Actually, I always say this, because we host a lot of people for cure purposes at home, meaning like
Mm.
outreach.
Beautiful.
And for outreach purposes, I always tell people, and people that are born Jewish, and I have a table full of people born Jewish, and I was like, okay, guys, it is more likely that you win the lottery 3 times in a row than to be born Jewish. Like,
Mm.
that, I
Wow.
believe, is a statistic that I heard. It is
Wow.
mind blowing. I mean,
I've
treasure it.
that's a real thing. I've never heard of that.
Yeah, that is a real
Wow.
Wow.
thing. Gotta treasure that. It's
Mm.
incredible. Yeah.
We say it all the time. It's it's a gift. It is a gift for sure. You mentioned your community. It's like the biggest hug, and that's how we often talk about when we came into our community. We were just loved on. We never felt judged.
Mhm.
We never felt weird. We never felt out of place. Like, our community welcomed us so much with loving arms. Never they never made us feel like I guess a convert, like an outsider, right? We
Mhm.
Right.
immediately felt like we were already Jewish,
Yes.
like people weren't
Sweet.
questioning us. Like, okay, well, tell me about this. Well, are you? No, it wasn't. They just loved on us,
Yeah.
welcomed us. It's beautiful.
And I bet you part of it is because you guys are so honest and
Mm.
open, and you carry your hands in your sleeve, your heart in your sleeve. Because
Mm.
I tell you, whenever, and this is something I tell people who are going through conversions all the time, just be honest. Walk into a synagogue and tell them, this is what I'm here for. Because then people start questioning, like, what is this person? Or what's going on? And like,
Yeah.
when you tell them, I love Judaism. I find it fascinating, and I want to be either part of the Jewish people, or I'm here to observe and to take in the love, and that's it. People are very likely to not be scared, or like, because you have to understand, we have issues with security or whatever. But if people are very honest about it, then, like, for the most part, most communities will be super, I say 99% of communities will be super welcoming and completely not judgmental. I have never, ever had anyone say any comment through all these years about me being Jewish or to my children, meaning like me being a convert or to my children. I have never, ever, and I think it's because I always come first. I am a convert. This is who I am, and I wear it with pride. And I always remind people there's so many there's how many times in the Torah does it say to be good to a convert?
Yeah.
Many times. I'm like,
Yeah.
if you're a real Torah Jew, you would know that you have to treat people like us with respect and dignity. And I do have a video on YouTube called Stuff That People Say to Converts, which is funny things. We obviously have a lot of friends who are converts, and we all talked about what people say to us after we convert to Judaism. Things that are hilarious, crazy. And then we made it because it was funny. It's funny. And to also bring awareness that sometimes these comments are not okay, but we take it, we're okay. We'll just let it slide. But it's like, sometimes it's hilarious. It's just like, we had to make the video and we did that because it was just cute and funny. But for the most part, I honestly don't know anyone that's had an awful experience whatsoever.
Wow.
That's refreshing to hear.
Yeah.
You mentioned, Reyna, that you grew up Catholic.
Yeah.
Do you? Well, I mean, you already kind of mentioned that you haven't had, like negative experiences in that way. But I was just going to ask, just for the record, when you decided to convert to Judaism, were you experiencing any negativity from the Catholic side? Were they giving you a hard time? Did they think you were crazy for wanting to kind of take this step,
or family?
Yeah.
No, yeah. I say that most people that I know have had some sort of issues with their family. No issues in a bad way, but a lot of people, but thankfully not me. Like my family was, to this day,
amazing.
extremely supportive. My parents are very supportive. The only people in my family that were a little hesitant were my grandparents, because they were like fervent Catholics, and they just were worried about my soul and worried about my children's souls not being baptized.
Yeah.
And because, unfortunately, I mean, I don't know for the rest of the Christians, because I can only speak for Catholics. They have certain beliefs that happens to a person's soul when they're not baptized.
Sure.
And my grandparent, obviously, which grandparent doesn't want their grandchildren to go to heaven? All of them.
Right.
But I assure them that my children were going to make it into heaven. And I told them, we're good people, we're going to be okay. And, I don't know if they bought it, but they left this world with a smile. So I think that they did. I hope they did. They saw how we lived our lives, and they were happy and proud of us. So
that's so good to hear, because that's not always the case, for
You're
people
right.
who are converting. And we hear all different types of stories, and we're very fortunate our family understands. Of course, some of them might not understand why we're making the decision that we're making, but at least we're not getting a lot of backlash and negativity, which is, we're very fortunate and we're grateful for that.
Yeah. I mean, because at the end of the day, your family just wants to make sure that you're okay. They want to make sure they care about your overall well-being. Yeah. Like you mentioned, they care about your soul, and so I think once the family really finds out, and I know we can speak for us, once our family found out that we were happy, we were around good people, there was nothing weird, we weren't weird, they actually started seeing fruit on the tree, right? There was good things happening in our lives, and once those things took place, everybody's good.
Yeah.
So
I remember when my mom, that we have this thing in Judaism, like to respect your parents is an incredibly important mitzvah commandment. And this particular commandment can be very, very difficult, as you can imagine. Some of us don't have necessarily the best relationship with our parents. Sometimes it is a difficult situation because your parents are not around. So I was lucky to have my mom around and to have a good relationship with her. And every time she walked in the room, I would stand up. And she's like, see me do this. And then she's like, what are you doing? Why are you standing up every time I walk in the room? Is something wrong? And I was like, no, well, in Judaism, this is what we do. And she's like, I don't understand it, but I like it.
Yeah.
and they have to respect that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what we talk about, seeing kind of like that fruit, that change of wow, she's respecting me. So there's something
Yeah.
here, right? She's learning something good, even if they don't understand it or not. You're
Yeah.
learning something good. And that kind of goes into, my next question. I mean, I know you're talking about your family history dating back to the Spanish Inquisition and fleeing from Spain and living as hidden Jews. Was this always something you talked about in your family, or is it something that you discovered basically on your own?
No, this was always spoken about in my
Hmm.
family. Since I was a little girl, we've been told our last name is from Perez with an S to Perez with a Z because they escaped from Spain. It was always something that was in the talk within my uncles, within my father, within my grandparents, and also about it was very obvious that we did strange things in the family.
Like,
And strange things that usually Catholic or Christian people don't do.
okay.
Um,
Can you give an example?
sure. Like for example, like every time we go to the cemetery, we wouldn't bring flowers, we would bring rocks. And it's very hard to find rocks in a beautifully manicured Christian cemetery because everything is so perfect and
Okay.
like idyllic, and like there's no rocks anywhere. So we would have to bring rocks from the fish tank.
Wow.
So it was very much like I didn't know why we did that, and neither did my father. My father had no idea why we just did that. There are also other things, like we would broom towards the center of the room instead of like, and then pick it up at the center of the room. This is something that's very, very particular to Anusim family. So there's
Mhm.
a few words to refer to converso Jews, the converso Jews, Anusim in Hebrew, and then there's Marano. The word Marano, a lot of people feel offended about it,
Mhm.
Yeah.
but it's actually, to me, it's just like a word that connotates that your outside is not the same as your inside. Like pigs are the same thing in kashrut, in the kosher diet.
Mhm.
We realize that they chew their they look kosher from the outside, but they're not kosher in the
I see.
inside.
Yep.
So I have a feeling that that's just kind of how it is. So I understand that people are referred to that, but usually it's referred to as converso Jews or anusim.
Okay.
And then there are certain things that anusim do that are particular to them.
Mhm.
Like they also don't use like lard when they fry things. They use usually olive oil. Sometimes they'll fast. But in my particular family, they actually didn't do that. They just did other things. They did, for example, we had, and this is very strange, but so as you know, hair and nails are something called erva or a klipa. It's almost like it has like the essence of a person. So you have to be very
Yes.
careful in Judaism how you discard nails, for example, right?
Yes. Yes.
Like a pregnant woman shouldn't step on a nail, for example, because it's not a good omen.
Mhm.
So it's like a Kabbalistic thing.
Mhm.
You're too young for that. Like even I'm too young for Kabbalah. Like no, like we are too young for Kabbalah. We'll get there. We'll get there. 100, God willing, we'll all get there. But this is what I've learned.
Yeah.
And so even the way you cut your nails, blah blah blah. So basically, what happens is my family would cut nails and hair from the deceased, and they would put it in a picture, in like a picture frame. And the picture frame, it depicted their Jewish burial. And then they had a small mausoleum in the house with their nails and hair, which is very creepy.
Mhm.
Wow.
But that's
Yeah.
what my family did.
Okay.
And a few other stories like that
Sure.
were,
Wow.
they had, my grandmother had, like, it's, I don't know how to call it in English, but it's basically like almost like a little shrine
Mm-hmm.
with like Jesus and the virgins around him and all that stuff in the cross.
Yep.
Mhm.
And
Yep.
then when you pick up the statues, there were little pieces of paper with Hebrew on underneath the statues. So every time you
Mm.
kiss the statue, you would be kissing like a mezuzah. Some people had it by
Wow.
their door, like a virgin, and then in the
Mhm.
foot of the virgin, you would find like a little scroll hidden. And then some people had it, like my family, they had it in that little shrine. So
Mm.
things like this are things that my family did that I had no idea they were Jewish at
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
until I saw the movie Schindler's List. Do you watch that movie, Schindler's
No, we've
List?
never seen it.
I've seen it a long time ago, but I
Yeah.
think I wasn't mature enough to really understand what was going on. So
I understand, because the first time I saw it when I was 16. So
Mhm.
I didn't I didn't realize what I was getting myself into. Everybody's like, oh, popcorn, let's go watch a movie
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
people getting killed.
Mm.
Like, I didn't realize. And then I'm watching the movie and I'm like, oh my gosh, because I never knew about the Holocaust until
Mhm.
that time.
I see.
And I know it sounds like I was born in a bubble, but I kind of was, in like a very bubble, like Christian Catholic life. So nobody taught me about the Holocaust or even the Inquisition for that matter. I didn't know. So when I'm watching that movie, at the end of the movie, and I don't know if you remember this because you probably saw it some time ago, they're putting rocks on Schindler's grave at the very end of the movie to thank him for what he did. They're going to visit his cemetery and putting rocks on his grave. And then when I saw that, I was like, whoa, wait a second. That's what my family does. We put rocks on graves. Maybe it's a Jewish thing. And that's how I found out that was a Jewish thing. Otherwise, I would have never known.
So, listening to all of that, it sounds like your family was really doing things that they might not have understand that came from tradition
Yeah.
because of a lot of things that had to be hidden, from them, like from escaping and having to deal with the whole Inquisition. Like, it sounds like we kind of transitioned to this, but there was still some Jewish things that were involved there. But
I don't even know if they can be called Jewish things because they're not even like intrinsically Jewish. They just have like a Jewish like
A
powder
touch.
on, like a touch.
right.
Yeah.
They just took Jewish things and they made it into whatever worked for them
Yes.
to survive that. But they were so diluted, I have to be honest.
Yeah.
Very diluted,
Mhm.
diluted. And they were also they themselves didn't know what they were doing. They just
Exactly.
imagine that in your family for some. And also another thing that my family did, they covered mirrors. When somebody would pass away, they would cover the mirrors. Why do we do this? We don't know. That's what
Right.
grandma used to do. She covered her mirrors when people pass away. So we're not, thinking about the vanity in life, about like, how does my lipstick look or how does my
Okay.
hair look? No, let's think about truly, let's do introspection.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Time for like looking inside instead of looking outside. So, but you could have, we could have made up any excuse for that, but they themselves didn't know why. Isn't
Mm.
that crazy? They don't know
Yeah.
why.
Yeah. Which is what I was saying is like it just sounded like you
Yeah.
mentioned, everything was kind of diluted over time because then they don't even
Yeah.
understand why am I doing this, but it was like
Yeah.
traditionally passed on. That's
Yeah.
very, very
Yeah,
interesting.
you're right.
Yeah,
You're
very
right.
interesting.
So this is something that you grew up hearing about, right? That your family were hidden Jews, right? And so I guess how did this make you feel? Like, was there? I know because you mentioned that you were there was something about Judaism very early on, right? That you just felt attracted to it. Do you think that this had something to do with it? Like these seeds planted in your in your mind when you were younger, hearing these stories.
Yeah, definitely.
Wow.
It did. It totally kind of like started, like, in a way, just right after that movie, after Schindler's List, I told my
Yeah.
parents, I was like, I just want to be Jewish. And my parents are so sweet. I mean, after paying Catholic school tuition for my whole life, I God bless them. They're like, well, what? You think that will make you happy? And I'm like, I don't know anything about Judaism, but something is telling me that there's something there that I just need
Wow.
to figure out. And my parents were so sweet. You want to hear this? They
Yeah.
took me to a synagogue in Venezuela.
Your
Wow.
They
parents
took
did
me to
that?
a
Your
synagogue.
your
Yeah.
Catholic family took you to a
Yeah.
synagogue.
Yep.
Wow.
My Catholic, but my dad
Wow.
kind of knew his family was somewhat Jewish. He just didn't know that these weird costumes were somehow related to being a Jew.
Yeah.
So he didn't put two and two together until later I explained to
That's
him,
amazing.
this is what you're doing. Because he's like, no, that has nothing to do with it. I'm like, Dad, it has. Look,
Yeah.
it's not just you, love. Like, you have so many people like you out there. It's not just me, and many women like me out there, right? So I said they took me to a synagogue. Isn't that sweet? They took
That
me
is
to a
very
synagogue,
sweet.
and the rabbi was so nice, and he said, "Listen, that's very sweet. All your stories are incredible, but she's too young. You have to be 18. You have to be a person, like making decisions for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And she lives in a very non-kosher environment, in a treif environment,
Mm-hmm.
where she can't keep kosher. She can't do a conversion. As you know, every time that you learn something, you kind of have to bring that into your life.
Yep.
He's like, you can expect that from her because she lives with you.
Mm.
So that's basically, he was very kind, but also I was heartbroken because
Mm-hmm.
how, you're 16 and you're thinking that's it, he's gonna just make me Jewish in 2 seconds.
Right,
Why did
right.
I know? I thought it would just be like, it took me 3 years to convert to Judaism, because I was so young. Immediately when I
Yeah.
turned 18, I went and I started searching for my conversion to
Wow.
Judaism, and I knew I wanted to do an Orthodox conversion, just like
Okay.
you guys.
Mhm.
That's what I knew, and I'll tell you later why.
Okay.
Unless
Okay.
you want me to tell you now.
No, because
yeah.
you put us on a cliffhanger, right? So you gotta please share.
Yes.
So what happened was I went to college in Venezuela for 1 year, and in my school it happens a lot of kids were Jewish.
Okay.
And I only knew because they were not really religious Jews. There's people who were just happened to be Jewish, and I only knew because one of them was wearing a mezuzah, like, believe it or not, not even a Star of David or a Hamsa or a little hand, no, a mezuzah. And I'm like, that's a mezuzah.
Yeah.
And he's like, how do you know? Because it's very rare that a non-Jewish person would know that you're carrying a mezuzah in your neck, especially when it doesn't belong in a neck. It
Right.
belongs to the doorpost, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, that shouldn't it be in a doorpost? And he's like, how do you know about Judaism? And I told him my story.
Yeah.
And he's like, this is fascinating. You should come to synagogue with us. And I was like, okay, I'll come to synagogue with you guys one Shabbat. Why not? If you're inviting me, because in Venezuela it's very hard to go into a synagogue. You need to have a passport and a permission, and because they have a lot of security, because it's quite dangerous, right?
Okay.
Even at the time, it was still dangerous. It's not like here where you can just pretty much walk into any synagogue.
Sure.
Probably a little more security nowadays, but used to be like you could walk anywhere. So in Venezuela, they let me in, and when they let me in, we were a group of kids from college. The boys went one way and the girls went another way, and I was like, what's going on here? Why are we separating? And the girls are like, come. Don't you see girls sit separately from boys? And I was like, what?
Like, what is this? Yeah.
What is going on here? I don't know. How would I know? So I go and I sit down. This is how old I am. This is before internet.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So I was like, I couldn't even Google, what do Jews do? Nothing. So I don't know when to talk to. So I sit there and I see everybody's praying, and the sidurs are like the prayer books are in Spanish, are and in Hebrew, and I have the most incredible connection. I cried and I didn't care. My makeup was a mess. I didn't care if I was a mess. I just did everything I needed to do, and I didn't have the pressure, the social pressure, because back in my other life, I was part of the choir in church. And I was there just like singing along, and you know how it is. It's like really like a party, right?
It's a party.
And like who has the best voice and this and that. And then I would like, in the middle of mass, as you know, there is like this moment where you give peace to each other, which is actually quite beautiful. But of course in Venezuela, being that we're so touchy and so Latinos, we're like, I'm gonna go hug the cutest guy that's sitting right there. Peace me. And trust me when I tell you, going to church had very little to do with my spiritual situation or my spiritual connection, and everything to do with what cute outfit I was gonna wear, which cute boy was I gonna see. My voice is good enough to sing today, And when I went to synagogue, it was about me and God, and that was it. And that's what that's why I said to myself, I need to become Jewish. I didn't even know it was called Orthodox Judaism. I was like, I just want this. I want this. So when I came to America, I went to LA and I moved across what I thought was a synagogue, which it is a synagogue on their own right. But I walked in and it was a Shabbat, thinking I'm going to find the same thing as in Venezuela. And it wasn't the same. It was a circle and people were like, kumbaya, kind of really cool, like, and I was like, this is amazing, but this is church for me. Like, I need to go to a place where it doesn't feel like church.
I see.
I want to be in the synagogue in Venezuela. That's what I want. So that didn't come until I went to Chabad and on campus at UCLA. And that's where I was like, oh, that's what they had in Venezuela.
This is it.
That's what I wanted. This is it. And it's fine. Some people relate to Judaism the way that they can relate to Judaism. And that's everybody has their own journey. But my journey had to have that connection, because I already had 18 years of my life with the other journey and didn't take me anywhere. So I wanted something completely different, and that worked for me.
See, I'm glad you didn't just leave us on the cliff. Thank you for continuing to share that. That's important. And I really believe that there are so many people that are going to be watching this, listening to this, um, that want to hear things like that, because there are so many people that are just like you, so many
Yes.
people that they have these questions, they have all these different experiences, and I just think the more opportunities that people have to be able to connect with those stories, to be able to hear from, different types of people's backgrounds. I mean,
Mhm.
I just think the more opportunity people have, then I think the more impactful their experience will be as well. Because I know when we first started our journey, we were we went on a search online, like
Yeah.
looking for people to
Ah,
talk to.
Mhm.
We just needed to know, okay, like, are we the only crazy people for thinking like this? Like, I need to talk to this type of people. I need
Yeah.
to ask a lot of questions. Help me, help me, help me.
Mhm.
Why did you convert? Are we crazy? Right. But
Right.
the more people that we were able to connect with, we
Mhm.
got story after story after story after story. And it made our situation so much more beautiful. And it just made us just appreciate it, because we started also just learning that everybody's journey is different, and that's
Mhm.
what makes
yes,
Judaism so beautiful.
Yeah.
And it
yes.
just makes you appreciate people, it makes you love everybody. Yeah, it's incredible.
Everybody's story is different, but there's always a similar, like, I had this feeling and something shifted and changed. Like
That's
that's
true.
that's the thing that I hear that's just so similar, that I'm like, that's how like God has his, the ones that are out there that we always talk about too. And we hear, other Jews, mention to us, like, your neshama was at Mount Sinai, right? Right. So,
Hmm.
going back to that, I'm like, that's probably why our stories they're different, but then they're similar in a sense of this yearning and desire for searching for something different that our soul just can't, we don't understand, but it's something that we want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so beautifully put. It's very
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
Raina, so right now we're in this period of counting the Omer. And there's a tradition that's taught that during this time, a great sage named Rabbi Akiva, he had thousands and thousands of students, right? 24,000 students. So,
24,000.
and
Mhm.
so, but we've learned that during a certain period, during this Omer period, this counting of the Omer, they all died.
Yeah.
And one of the main reasons that we heard was that they couldn't get along,
Mhm.
right? They just couldn't work with each other. And so that really, really, it touches our heart every time we read about it. And so I just wanted to ask you, I, how do we how do we take those events that happen during that time and really learn from them, so that we don't have to keep repeating them? Because I feel
Mhm.
like the Jewish people are still that way in some contexts. It's like there's so much division, so much
Mhm.
separation. It's like we don't get along here. There's division. There's groups, and like, what? How do we get to a place to where we're peaceful amongst each other?
It's amazing that you say that word peace, because that is basically, I think, like the theme of Judaism. We say shalom,
Mhm.
shalom, peace,
Yeah.
Shabbat
Mhm.
shalom, shalom, bye is shalom, hello is shalom, Avenu shalom aleichem. Like everyone is always with shalom. And
Mhm.
I think that I realized that, and actually I was learning this the other day, which is fascinating, that that's one of the midot. Midot is character traits that Yitzchak had.
Mhm.
His midah, his character trait that Hashem, God, told him you're amazing at, is shalom. And it is incredible that shalom is actually not something that you can necessarily be born with, or you can necessarily. It is all about inner shalom. Even when we have the kohanim in the synagogue, they're giving you a blessing, right? When they put their hands like this, when they cover themselves, we're not supposed to look at them, right? And they're
Mhm.
Mhm.
saying they're saying that beautiful blessing that's like
Mhm.
makes me like my. I don't have much hair because I did the laser, but it makes your hair
Nice.
go up. Yeah, it makes
Yeah.
your hair go up.
100% agreed.
They are wishing. They say to people, "May your face be illuminated, and may you have shalom." They don't say to people, "Have blessings of health, have blessings of money, have blessings of," no,
Mhm.
have blessings of shalom, of peace. That's the blessing that we get for Sephardim every Shabbat in the synagogue from the Kohanim Ashkenazim on the holidays and such.
Okay.
But what happens is that it is amazing that this is basically what we have, because many people, they have money, they have everything in life, they have family, they have health, and they don't have shalom. They don't have peace. They don't have peace. And I feel that right now as Jews, it's exactly what you said. Like, we have so many things. We have never been given so many tools in life. Like my phone, right? I can literally search here for the solution for any problem in the world right now, and we
True.
don't have shalom. We don't have peace. We have most incredible amount of anxiety. And I think it's because shalom is something that you need to work on. We need to work on. We need to feel uncomfortable, and we need to say, this is something I need to work on. Like, it's not something that's just given. It's not something that Hashem gives me just, God gives me just like that. The Kohanim need to be participating, the shalom. I have to say, people, shalom aleichem. Many languages that are not even Jewish languages, shalom is used.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
shalem or salam. You know, it's like it's like, I feel like right now, I mean, what do we need as a Jewish nation is to know that this is something that we need to do our ishtadlut. We need to do our part and our job on bringing together to work hard. I was right now in Israel for Passover to visit my children. I have two kids in yeshiva in a
Beautiful.
boys Jewish college in
Mazel
Israel.
tov.
It's
Mazel
called,
tov.
thank you. It's called yeshiva, right? So we went to visit them for Passover, and as I'm there, I'm wearing one day a sheitel, and then the next day I'm wearing a gorgeous scarf like you're wearing, and then the next day I'm wearing this and I'm wearing that, and people were like, "But what are you?" Because people at the shuk at the Mane Yehuda in Jerusalem, they start selling you vegetables. So every day that you go, they start getting to know you. And I was there for more than a few weeks. So they're like, yesterday you came with a mispacha, with that hair wrap. Today, is this your hair? Tomorrow you're coming with a baseball cap. Like, what are you? I'm like, I'm just a Jew. I am nothing. I'm not in a box. Like, why do we need to feel like we need to belong in a certain box?
I agree.
I'm just a girl buying her vegetables to make Shabbat chicken soup. That's all. Like, you can't, I think that when we put ourselves with limitation, we mess with the shalom. We mess with that peace. And I think that the more, and I honestly do believe tremendously that about shuvas and converts, Hashem is gathering us, because Hashem needs for Jews to realize that this is shalom. Like, we are all colors of the rainbow. We are all coming from all different countries in the world. I mean, I'm from Venezuela. I don't know if you guys are all American.
Yes.
My cousin is from Mexico. There are converts from all countries. We're all coming together for one reason, and that is because we love Judaism. And I just think that, and I think that that's what I think that we are the chili peppers of Judaism. That's what we are.
Like, I literally have chills with everything that you just said, because that's exactly where LaDerryl and I are at, and you said it so beautifully. I don't think I could have heard it any better. And thank you for giving that example too, of you going to visit your boys in Israel, and you mentioning you at the market, and like, I'm just Jewish, because that's how we need to all treat each other. We're all Jewish. We're all brothers and sisters. We all come in different colors, like you said, all shapes, sizes. We need to treat each other in that way. And I'm just so blessed by you even just saying that. Like, thank you so much for sharing that. And our viewers, I think they're going to take that away in such a beautiful way. And I know they're going to feel that, because I felt that from your heart 100%.
Thank you.
And and again, thank you for that. You mentioned working on your character traits, working on the midot. And I feel like, obviously nobody's perfect, but I feel like maybe you and your family, this is something that's really big within your household, because we can only talk and speak about something that we're actually doing. And I just feel that peace is something that exudes from you. And because it exudes from you just very, very naturally, we obviously, this is our first time meeting, but I just feel like this is a staple. This is probably a staple in your home. And I'm sure your husband have that. Your amazing 5 boys, right? And so thank you for teaching us that.
It's a pleasure.
So I really wish that these interviews are
5 hours.
longer. There's so many things that, like, especially once we get going, like I'm like, oh, we can talk about this, we can talk about
Yeah.
that,
I
but
know.
we are, wrapping up at the end now. So we have, before we go, we have this thing that we do called the Fast Five.
Mhm.
And so we have 5 kind of randomish questions, and we're just gonna
Okay.
share. We're gonna ask you the question, and then right off the top of the dome, just kind of give us the answer.
All right. Like one word, or can I use a few words?
Oh, you can
Oh,
use, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
you can use
Scared.
a few.
You,
It's
you
just
can elaborate.
fast. It's not like
Oh,
longer
okay.
responses like we
Yeah,
have been. It's just the fast 5.
Maybe I
Yeah.
should
Okay.
change the name for Fast Five, because that
No,
it
fast
sounds
5
like a
is,
lightning round. Like,
but you know what? Let's keep it fast 5, but explain in depth a little bit.
okay, all
Like
right,
you can use multiple words. It's just not elaborating so much, I guess.
okay,
Yes.
cool. Okay, you want to do the first one, or you want me to do?
Well, you have to scroll it up so I can even see
As
it.
far as it can go.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. So number 1, what are you most proud of?
Oh, wow.
Gotcha.
That's very hard. You got me. I think my family. My
Beautiful.
family.
Beautiful.
Number 2, favorite Shabbat dish to make.
Persian rice.
Oh,
Tajik.
Persian
Tajik.
rice.
Persian rice is amazing. I've actually had Persian rice.
You've had
and
Persian rice? When?
Yes.
And you didn't tell me. How come I don't know
No,
about this?
I think I have, but we were just like younger.
See how she do me.
Okay, number 3, favorite Jewish holiday.
Pesach. Passover.
Okay.
Beautiful.
All right. Funniest jujitsu moment.
Wow. It is not PG-13.
Okay. Should we give you another question?
Funny jiu-jitsu moment. Oh gosh, I'm trying to think. Oh yeah, I'll tell you a funny jiu-jitsu moment.
Okay.
Somebody was doing an Ezekiel choke. An Ezekiel choke is when you basically imagine a person's neck between my 2 arms. So where my bracelet is, right there is a person's neck. You grab your outfit and you squeeze like that. So you're doing a choke on the person. It's like you basically choking them, and hopefully they pass out, but not right there. They tap you to stop.
Okay.
So one person is doing that choke, and I'm trying to wiggle out of it, and I wiggled out of it, and I'm like, and the person looks at me. They're like, I'm like, what's going on? I had done at the time fake lashes, those with the glue.
Yeah.
Half my lashes were gone.
Oh.
Half of them on the flat on the mat, and I'm like picking them up. I'm like,
oh no.
You know what?
Like,
Only a woman would understand, though. We would understand that moment.
So
that was bad.
Woman problems, huh?
Yeah.
I get it.
Okay, your last one. Your favorite mitzvah.
I think my favorite mitzvah, it's hard to pick one.
I know.
Of course.
But I think saying Asher Yatzar after I go to the bathroom is my favorite.
Okay,
because I think
please elaborate.
That's like the most incredible prayer that I think, the appreciation of like our body working the way it should be working. Always like it like fascinates me. And then when you really learn that prayer in depth, and you really know the sources and how and then if you need to use a bathroom and you finally make it to the bathroom after that prayer feels so good to say.
Yeah.
And even when I was having contractions with my children, I remember thinking, I want to say this prayer so badly. I'm not supposed to, because it's after you use the bathroom, but like because when your body works well, you know how they say you have problems until a person doesn't have health, and then they realize that they never had any problems. And like it's just like you have your body working. I just feel like it's a tremendous thing, and to be able to say thank you properly, I'm like, wow, it's just, I love doing that. I love getting out of the bathroom and looking weird, like and I'm like in my head, like, that was great, thank you.
Oh
That's beautiful. That's so good to hear. And you know why I think
I
that's
love it.
beautiful is because how many opportunities do we get a chance to do that mitzvah, you know? So
Yeah.
that's so great.
W-
Thank you for sharing that.
that is a way to go out right there.
That is a way to go out, right?
That's the way to go. But wow, Reyna, thank you so much. This has been an incredible conversation. We are walking away from this conversation, I mean, lifted,
Yes,
you
and
know?
elevated, and there's so much even more to you, Reyna. You're more than what you even just shared and your background. And I mean, there's things that we didn't even get to touch on. That's why I'm
Yeah.
like, oh my goodness, we could be talking for hours. But thank you. I just can't wait for our viewers to be able to hear this. And you know, we pray that you know they feel elevated. That's one of our things that we like to say is you know feeling elevated after coming out of hearing such a beautiful podcast. So thank you again. I feel
Likewise.
like we just met another friend, which is beautiful while we get to do these podcasts. It's like a new friend every time we get to
Yeah.
do them. So thank you.
Thank you guys for having me. This is sweet.
And it's our pleasure. And one more thing before we go, where can people find you?
Usually, I'm pretty active on my Instagram, um, or my Facebook, my cookbook Facebook, which is Persian Food from the Non-Persian Bride.
Okay.
That's my name on my book, Persian Food from the Non-Persian Bride.
I
Mhm.
like it.
And yeah, that's it.
Okay.
You know, I'm sometimes I'm active, sometimes I'm not, but yeah, that's where I am.
Great.
Amazing.
And so what we'll do, we'll make sure that we put all of that information, her links, her social platforms, and the best way to be able to find her
Thank
in the
you.
description below.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much, Reyna. And we'll talk to you soon.
Yes.
We'll speak soon. Bye.
Another one. That was,
Whew.
here's how I feel. I don't even really have a lot of words to say because she just has so much. Again, I'm so glad that she talked about peace
Hmm.
and her breakdown of shalom and peace and how to be able to develop that and was so needed.
Yes, very, very
Yeah.
needed. And I feel like that's like our topic lately, you know,
Yeah,
of
it
just
is.
talking about how do we bring all of the Jews just back and connected. And the way that she explained it was beautiful.
Absolutely.
It's like she took the words right out of my mouth, and her story was absolutely beautiful.
Yeah. So again, thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for listening. We will be sure to put all of her social links down in the description below. And before you guys take off, be sure to subscribe to Aish on YouTube. And if you're listening on the podcast, make sure you rate the podcast on Apple as well.
Mhm.
And everything that Aish has going on, just support it. They're doing a phenomenal work, being able to share the beauty of Judaism, and we're honored to be able to play a small role as well.
And you can find us at House of Lev across the board. That's on YouTube, that's on Instagram. That's our main platforms that we are on. And we'll have that also in the description.
Thank you guys so much for watching, and we will be sure to see you on the next one.